Thanks, John. No pressure. I'm supposed to be dynamic now. I'm in trouble. So, we want to talk about sales. We heard a lot about sales over the past couple of days. Would you agree? What's our challenge? Let's think about it. What's our challenge to exceptional growth? We've had a lot of time. We've focused. There's a lot of things in operations going on. We just heard some great conversation about supply chain and how to get the product out to the people. What's one of our big challenges, though? We need more sales. I don't know how many times I've heard this. Being an SFF person, every time I talk to people, this is what I hear. We need more sales. We need more sales. All I can say is be careful what you ask for. What I'd like to do is just kind of go through what I'll talk about today. I want to talk about the description of the organization that we've been working with. I've been working with a company called Prince Manufacturing Corporation. I'll tell you a little bit more about them. The solution that we have that was put together for them, their viable vision. The approach to the implementation that's been taken from an SFS perspective. I'm not going to get into the operational sides. I'm specifically going to be talking about the SFS side, or how do we get these sales that we need? How do we fill that pipe? Talk a little bit about the results that we've had to date, and then I'll finish up with lessons learned. And if for me, one of the biggest and most important thing is of this conference that I've had is around the lessons learned. One thing that we've had in taking off early on is there wasn't a lot of roadmap or direction or what should we have. S&T trees didn't exist yet. Fourth layers didn't exist yet. A lot of this stuff, as we say, the plane was being built as we were flying it. Okay? So what I hope to impart on you is some of those learnings we've had, and you may be able to see how those now have been integrated into the process, into the solutions and the S&T trees that you saw over the past 2 days. So let's talk a little bit about the company. The company has made their first order of 100 cylinders back in the 50s. They've now grown to 5 manufacturing plants, producing many different types of products. They're located in North Sioux City, South Dakota, which is somewhere between nowhere and nowhere. What you'll also note on here, and I put this slide on here specifically because this was their original slide when they went out to talk to people. What do you see a lot of? ISO 9001, we pride ourselves in quality, engineering department is great. What on there is about delivery? Nothing, exactly. Why? They weren't focused on it. Is that the reason why? What do you think their delivery was? Okay. Okay? So that's why the focus wasn't there. Because this is what they were good at. And by the way, why were they still in business? Because they were good at these. Okay? Let's talk a little bit about the organization's sales channels. They had direct sales and they also worked through distributors. Direct sales, they just actually made a change. They moved a lot of their OEMs. They had about 250 to 300 distributors they were working with on all their OEM sales. Well, if you think about what I would say what good looks like for salespeople, they were spending a lot of time on low-octane stuff, very little time on the high-octane stuff. So they made the right decision. This was before we got there. Let's push off the slow OEMs. Let's focus our efforts on the large OEMs internally. On the outside, they have the small OEM, and they also have a lot of standard product, non-OEM stuff you can buy off the shelf. So they have the standard stuff on the shelf, and they also have another piece that they call special. And that's just a little bit of a variation on a theme of a standard product. Okay, and I'll show you how this comes back into the offer that we've made to the market. They had minimal growth and flat profitability over a number of years. They're also a very small portion of the U.S. mobile hydraulic market share. And if we add Canada or any place else, it's minuscule. You can tell it's very small here. Great opportunity. So this is a question, why TOC? Why did they go this direction? Why, when I talked to them, they got so excited about this possibility? They were very frustrated with the status quo. They've been flat in sales, flat in profit. They're working hard. They had plenty of improvement projects going on, but they weren't seeing bottom line results. Intuitively, they knew there was a better way, and the intuition came from some of the people in the organization reading the goal. I don't know about you guys, or when you talk to the folks that you go sell to on the viable vision side, how many of them have read the goal? Many, right? At least somebody does. Right? So they have an idea that it's possible, but I really don't know how to get there. So we talked about those possibilities, and the biggest thing is they were willing to consider that this type of exceptional growth was possible. Right? We have to get them from the I want to believe to the believe. When we start off, I think they're in the I want to believe. By the way, I think it's the same thing for customers. I want to believe you're going to deliver what you say. I have a hard time believing you're going to do it, but I want to. Let's talk a little bit about the solution. As I mentioned before, they had very unreliable delivery, and this is the industry, it's not just them. If it was just them, they'd be out of business. But what we see everywhere is that there's unreliable delivery, less than 70% on-time delivery. And by the way, I don't know about you, when you go and actually do some of these studies and look into it, that happens to be on the requote of the date. Long lead times, 8 to 12 weeks. Most products are a very small portion of the selling price. They also have their standard or catalog market, much more a commodity item, a lot more pressure from competitors. And you can lose it very easily, right? If I can find it from somebody else, you'll take it from somebody else. So there's a lot of focus on what here? What do you think? Price. But even in that case, there's still a lot of unavailability. I still can't get my part. And there's a lot of offshore pressure coming in the mobile hydraulics industry right now. The other thing is it's very highly segmented, a lot of different groups, which is actually a very good benefit for us. You can go into one area and it doesn't affect the other areas. Even in price or in delivery, you can still have effects in what we can talk about later. I won't get into in great detail, but that gives you a lot of flexibility in buffering your solution. Okay, so what's the core offer? The core offer, there's actually two offers. I'm going to focus my presentation on the core offer. I'll mention the secondary offer we had, but I'll focus today on the core offer. The core offer is guaranteed on-time availability or delivery with rapid response. I'm not going to go through all of this. You've heard that over the past couple of days when Ellie went through the S&T trees. But what's the focus? On-time delivery guaranteed. And if you need it in a much faster time, we can deliver that also on time, but there's going to be a premium. Right? So that's the solution. That's the primary solution. Let's talk a little bit about the implementation now. I just wanted to set the stage of where they are when we started with them. We're going to go through this a little bit on the solutions for sales process, the offer that we created for the market, the synchronization between operations and sales, very key. Very, very, very key. Okay, I don't know about you guys. How many silos exist in organizations you guys work with? 1, 2, 3, 4, a dozen, right? If there's 2, it's too many. Training that the salespeople need to do, you heard a lot about this in the last couple of days. What was the question? Can we teach people how to sell this offer? Can we teach them to move from selling a product to selling a business deal? We'll talk about what we did with them. Delivering the offer, managing the pipeline, we'll get in that to the end. And you've heard a lot about this, and we went through the College of Hard Knocks on this. I'll talk to you about what we learned there. And then also, how do we leverage that offer? Some of you may know about Solutions for Sales, but the Solutions for Sales expert is the TOC provider responsible for delivering the results, the sales results, that growth. They're focusing in three major areas. The marketing offer template is adequate for the business. We heard about that today. We have these S&T trees, but we have to work with them some, right? We have to make it so that it works for the solution that we're going after. It's not a one-size-fits-all. The sales force is able to sell that offer. A lot of time training, getting them to believe. And that's key there, getting them to believe. I don't know about you guys, but if you have a sales guy that's across from you and he doesn't believe in what he's selling, what do you do? Marketing and sales to execute the plan effectively. How do we keep moving? Not only how do we start, but how do we keep that moving? Okay? So in the process, a lot of time up front in preparation. we need to make sure that we have a good understanding of the current reality. But we don't want to get mired in this, because as much as we know, there's 10 times more we don't know. What we have found when we went out to our customers, as much as they thought they knew, most of it was not correct. The ramp up. And this is really taking and creating this team, a sales and marketing team, and having them build and getting that full ownership of their responsibilities. Okay, again, we haven't really talked a lot about training or anything like that. That's the next step. If we don't have that buy-in going into training, it's going to stagnate. It's going to stop. We're going to have a lot of objections and a lot of blocks. And then lastly, the implementation. We call it ready, set, go. And this is really to make sure that we have a process to drive the Viable Vision and get us to the sales that we need. So let's talk about what the solution came up with to the market. We talked to the market about a guaranteed delivery with rapid response. We walked out to the market, built this with the team. They have to come up with all these numbers, not us. We facilitate that discussion. We have to know a lot about the market. They have different products which have different current, keep in mind the word up here is current standard lead times. Okay, we talked a lot about this over the past few days. That lead time needs to be able to move depending on what's happening downstream. I'll show you how we didn't look at this hard enough to begin with. So we have a standard lead time that we're going out with the industry, and by the way, these are all competitive, at or better than they can get anywhere else. The price we're talking about is standard. Why do I say that? Standard. What does that mean? What do you think that means? What does somebody think that means? Market price, okay? It may even be what ours is today. A lot of times when you go out to offer somebody new, what do they think? The price is going to go up. You're offering me more, the price is going to go up. So we have to block that right from the beginning. And the most important piece on here is for a company that's been delivering, or a market that's, or a sector that's been delivering at best 70% on time, to be able to go out and say, it's guaranteed on time, or we'll pay you 10% per day, up to the price of the selling price. What do you think people say when they hear this? What do you think? It's good? Some might say it's good. You're crazy. That's the one we normally heard. Or the other one is, oh, you must put those extra penalties in the price. This is what we walked out with, okay? This is what we built. We haven't delivered it yet. We have a long way to go yet. We also had on the second slide is the rapid response. On top of having that type of delivery, Prince commits to provide much shorter delivery lead time if the need arises. This is a piece around teaching value and helping customers understand value. We had 2 tracks, one we called Express, one we called Urgent. Express is half, less than or equal to half the standard lead time, so it's if 8 weeks, it's 4 weeks. And in the case of Urgent, it's instead of 4 weeks, it's 2 weeks. Okay? Important thing here is we have to have synchronization between us and engineering, between production. We'll talk about that. Before we can offer this, production has to be able to deliver it. Premium pricing applies. In this case, it's 2x and 4x for these 2 different types of tracks. And one of the other things you'll note out here is the on-time delivery, or it's 50% off on the first day. Now, this is an example here. I would not say that this is how it's done everywhere. Some places we want to make this actually as small as possible, but we want to make sure people understand there's teeth in the game, right? That our skin's in it, that there's teeth in this offer. We also have to make sure that the penalty's big enough that the sales guys buy into it. What do I mean by that? If there's a 50% penalty to the company, how do they believe operations is going to behave? What's that? They're not going to be late. So if I put this penalty there, I know my operations guys will deliver. We've got them going in the right direction already. We did learn a major lesson here, though. And I'll come back to this at the end, but don't mix rapid response and reliability from the start. All it caused was skepticism and tension. It was hard for people to fathom the possibility that we could deliver in that short a lead time. And the block wasn't so much for our customers as it was for our salespeople. Operations haven't been able to deliver on time yet, and now we're saying we're going to deliver 1/4 of the time, on time, all the time, or a 50% penalty. People just dug their feet in. Okay? It was something that you heard on the S&T trees. You see on the top level it splits. It goes down to one path, which was reliable delivery, and the other path is rapid response. This is one of the reasons there's a split. Okay, synchronization with operations. Sales has to wait for go. Does that mean we have to wait to start? No, we don't have to wait to start. There's a lot, and I'm going to talk about all what we had to do to get to the point where we could say go. We did a phased approach to the rollout. How fast do we want to roll out? What do you think? How fast do we want to roll out?
At the rate that production can handle.
Yeah, at the rate of production handle, which is what? As fast as we can. So the first bit that's ready, we want to be able to go. The next bit that's ready, we want to be able to go. We don't want to wait. We don't want to batch our sales process so that we're losing opportunity. We created a couple of different classifications. You'll note the color schemes, green, yellow, red. Green, all is okay. Sales could go out and sell it, doesn't have to ask a question. Yellow, its standard lead time was okay, we must check for others. And in the case of red, and this is product types or product classes, you can't even do it. So we didn't have to go back all the time. We wanted to be able to move as rapidly as possible. The other thing is there was a nice subordination here. The ops targets moved to red and yellow, and green to priorities of volumes. As operations is looking at how we're going to roll this out over time, their goal is to keep pushing things up to the green. So it gives them a nice focus area. They also work with us to say, of the yellows, which ones do we want green? Of the reds, which ones do we want yellow? And we want those based on volume. We have a nice feedback loop with ops to ensure flow. We're looking at capacity versus the pipeline. And another piece which I call free product. What do you think free product means?
Not through the constraint.
It's not through the constraint. Which constraint? It's a funny question, isn't it? How many constraints should there be? Do we think that that's true? I got 5 plants. And I got multiple types of products. How many constraints do I have? I have many. It's right as 1 per process flow as we look down there. We have some that have plenty of capacity. They're ready to take stuff on. We can get those in really quickly. Let's focus on those. We have others that it's going to get stuck right away. Right? So it helped us differentiate where we should be focusing. We also, in creating this excellence in operations, had 2 additional offers that we could have to the market. One is because now we were doing buffer management at a component level. It's an A plant, so we have components that we're assembling at the end to get out. This is for the standard product or for the special catalog, which is kind of the slight modification and still build to order. This, having it at the component level, we could assemble quite quickly. So we could have a much shorter lead time, but we could broaden the offer to the market. Fast lead times were these special catalogs, 50% shorter lead time versus OEM. Now, to our competitors, we're actually 50% faster. So what we're able to do, we're 6 times slower. In this case, we're actually going out and selling it at below lead time right now. We have plenty of capacity. It's not touching anything. It's not anywhere near any one of our constraints. So we want to boost sales very quickly. It also gives us a much better opportunity for rapid response. I'll show you a little bit later that in an OEM, there's things like engineering and testing and prototyping. Very long lead time. In this case, we have none of that. So the opportunity for rapid response is much higher. We also had buffer management and finished goods. With the high volume products, we were actually supplying some of these things to our distributors. We were pushing it out. We actually pulled it back in, held the product at the plant. In doing that, we could create what we call a reliable availability program. And by the way, I'll take a step back. This was a great learning for us. We thought that our distributors were holding inventory. We found out they weren't. We were rapidly supplying the product to them, and we were either drop shipping it, or all they were doing is repackaging and sending it out. It was one of those learnings. Everybody thought they were holding inventory. We talked to them about VMI, and they go, VMI? What do you mean you're going to cut my inventory? I don't have any inventory. Oops. Okay? So we created this new program, Rapid Availability Program, guaranteed availability in stock up to a specific spike quantity, right? We can't go above our buffers or eat too much of it, or we're going to start paying penalties. But if you order by 2 p.m., we'll ship it the same day. If you order between 2 and 5, we'll ship it the same day, but there's a 10% premium. This right now is our highest rapid response offer. It's 10%. These parts are very small as the sales price. Imagine. You know, these things go on tractors. So you have a guy who's down, and he's harvesting product. He's harvesting corn, and his tractor's down. How much is he willing to pay to get that back up? You think 10%? More than 10. Yeah, but is this easy? This is a no-brainer, right, for them. I'll pay the money. Get it out right away. So now we have this solution. We're going out, we know what we want to do, let's start talking about how do we get the salespeople in a position to go out and do this. We've talked a little bit about, you heard it yesterday and the day before, a little bit about identifying the salespeople. There's different ones. Inside, which was mentioned, order takers. And I have a little bit different perception on order takers, and you'll see it in a little bit. Order takers still have a very big role in this offer. We have the outside salespeople, actually people who are going out, touching customers, and making sales. Also remember, we have these distributors out there. We have 18 master distributors. They have 250 salespeople in those 18 master distributors. We don't want to miss them. By the way, we have 6 inside the company. Okay? Big leverage in our distributors. Talk a little about the training, selling product versus value. We built a method to get people to understand, and we need it to be sustainable, and we need it to be something that can grow as the company grows. Many times when you have training, what happens? What happens to the second wave of people? We forget about them. We don't have tools, we don't have processes, we're not ready to deal with them. We also need to make sure people can go back and, you know, what was that they said, and how did they do it, and how do we practice these things? We created things like, let's prepare a list of frequently asked questions so that we know how to answer the questions. Do's and don'ts when you go out. Why is that important? Why do you think that's important? A list of do's and don'ts. Okay, reduces your variation in process of selling. What else? What's that? Reinforces the rules. What else? Is the list ever full? Do we ever always know what things we should do and don't do? This is one of the things that really helped us with. We spent time thinking about what we should and shouldn't do. We also, after we went out to a sales call, would come back to it and say what went well and what didn't go well. That was a great list for us to say, oh, you know, I forgot to do that. Practice and role play. I'm going to talk a little about this. I know some of you out there have been in some of my training, so you know how big I am on role play, and there's probably some scars to be shown because of it. This toolkit, and I'll show you what we did for distribution. Ongoing coaching is very important, and I'm thinking now from not only ourselves, but also our salespeople. They have to continually coach the people that they're working with. We'll talk about how. Ongoing improvement and managing doubt. I heard this about rapid response. It's easier to sell the customer on rapid response than it is the salesperson. Our biggest critic in rapid response training is the salesperson. So let's talk about the flow of the offer. we talked about minus sales, plus sales. I'm very intrigued by that, very intrigued. It's going to be very important for us. You're going to see that we're doing a lot of minus sales here. Describe the challenges of supply and demand. Define what good looks like so that as they look at the solution, they're saying, yeah, that's what we should be doing. And the other thing that does, it gives them a tool to actually measure our competition. Because in many cases, they really don't know how to measure us. Definition of the PRINCE program, guaranteed availability, short lead times, and very important, right up front, terms and conditions. Everybody understands everything. There's no small print. And then we talk next steps. Making the offer. We look at 3 different types of presentations that we have. Everybody learns how to do these. One is the 30-second presentation, scripted, very mechanical. A 5-minute presentation. How do I get to the next step? Where do I want to be? Where I want to be is I want to be a 30-minute PowerPoint presentation with the key decision makers. Each one of these is to drive the next step. That's the expected outcome. Much different. Think about the sales process today. What's the expected outcome of a sales call? A sale. Okay? This is different. If we walk out with a sale, is that bad or good? If we walk out with a sale, it's bad? It's good, but it's a cherry. Right? What we want people to do is understand to get to that next level. I don't know how many times we've gone in, we've given the presentation, they're sitting there, their heads are spinning, and they don't, they're like, and 2 days later you get an order. Right? I want this number of SKUs and I want you to do as fast as possible. The other thing to keep in mind is the salespeople are a window into the organization. Knowledge is critical, confidence is key, and patience is a virtue. We are not going to sell every time. Please don't try to do it. Just wanted to show you, when we talked about the 5-minute solution, we actually have a pamphlet here. And what you'll notice is probably really hard to see in the back, that it actually follows the flow I just talked about. Challenges of supply and demand, criteria for a good solution. What is our solution? What does the lead times look like? And what are the terms and conditions? We flow right through what we want them to see. It's very consistent for whatever we're talking about. Same flow, same dynamic, always. Consistency, again, is key. They feel very confident if we know, or they perceive that we know what we're talking about. We do, but even if they perceive it, it's better. Role play. This is the key to success. This is an opportunity to practice the new sales approach. When we go out, we're in many different situations all the time. Different types of customers, different types of solutions, what they're trying to put it in. What we want to do is help people by preparing different scenarios. Say, and I like sports, football. New offensive coordinator comes in. We're going to release this new offense the day before practice, before the first game, right? And then we're going to go out and we're going to play that. Yes? No? Who would do that? You own a pro football team, you're going to release it to your team, and then you're going to go out and do it the next day. Let me ask you this now. How many times when we put a new process in place do we implement it right away? Well, we see it a lot. In sales, we didn't want to do that. We wanted to practice. We wanted to make sure that people understood what was going to come up. What are the scenarios? How are they going to act? What if I'm talking to a purchasing person? What if it's the president? What if it's operations? What if they're a spoiled customer that we've delivered stuff before? What if they're an existing customer that we've teed off for the past 2 years? What if it's a new customer? We need to develop how to control the flow. We need to learn how and when to answer questions. Many times a question is answered. Do we want to answer that? Absolutely not. But we have to learn how to deflect it to get to the point we need to make. Learn how to use a Socratic approach so they gain the solution. They determine the solution. And I heard this quote. One of the guys I was working with at Prince, he goes, it was a lot tougher than the real thing. Beautiful. Why? You heard this yesterday, but I'm going to go back to what Rami's quote is. The more you sweat, the less you bleed. Difficulty in training, easy in battle. When he came out, it was, That was a piece of cake. Guess what it would have been if he wouldn't and I wouldn't have spent time? By the way, we got that sale. Right away. We created training materials for distributors. We put it on DVD, including a mock of the role play, so they could see what's actually happening dynamically. We couldn't get out and train 250 salespeople. So we created a mechanism to train salespeople. Metrics in sales, very important. You heard about this morning. What are key metrics in sales? Let's talk about the external people. One of their sales changed to delta throughput by region. Notice I use the word throughput. I don't use any other word here. I only want them thinking throughput. Premium as a percent of sales, which drives rapid response. Delta throughput by team. We want this group working together. And lastly, another piece is individual performance. Even if I meet all my sales goals, I want to make sure that I haven't left a wake of bodies behind. I haven't beaten up on operations or engineering or anything else. So even if they do great on all these, and that's poor, it's the wrong behavior. So we want to drive behaviors. I also mentioned earlier, from the internal salespeople side, that they have a big role in this. Identifying new leads. Guess who gets most of the opportunities to sell a premium offer? Service, the internal people. So they have to know. In fact, not only have to know, they have to believe. They have to believe that this is good for their customer. Oh yeah, I can give you that. It's 4 times the price. You sure you still want it? Right? Oh, how can we help you? Really? Oh, your tractor's down. Oh yeah? Really? Did you hear about our rapid response? Yeah, you saw that? Great, we can get that to you in 2 weeks. Oh, you saved me, right? Completely different path. And another important thing is there can be no cap on it. If we cap these sales metrics, whatever their bonus or incentive is, they'll stop when they hit it. Or they'll start sticking them in the drawer and wait till the next series comes up. You heard about this also yesterday. So what are some of the impacts on metrics? Roles are clearly defined, levers are well understood, people know where to focus. Salespeople are focused on selling right products. Remember I talked about delta T. What do we want? We want high throughput products. Not just sales. Working as a team, sales process continually improving. So we have sales. Sales is on board. What's one of the other things we need to make sure that we do? We need to bring more sales. We need to queue them up. We talked about this. You heard about this the last couple of days. We need a queue of sales opportunities. We want them coming to us. We don't want to go find them. That's effort. Finding customers, is that good work for us? Is that good touch time? It's not. We want them coming to us so that when they're ready to buy when they come talk to us. So I'm going to talk to you a little about what we did and the materials that we had to drive these customers coming to us. Very nice website put forward, and I'm going to blow this up a little bit so you don't have to worry about reading each one of these things. But I want to just note that I'm going to go into a couple of areas here, and you're going to see a change in central theme. Before, it was about product quality, and not that it's not still on there, about quality and warranty and all that. But here, right on the front, this is the president, Ria Geary. If we're late, we pay. She's got a quote on here. 10% per day, 50% on urgent orders. This is what we want people to see. This is the plus, right? This is a plus sale, would you agree? This is a plus sale in a marketing material. Guaranteed in stock or we pay. Lead times cut in half, guaranteed. This is the one I like that they added. We were happy to say that we had only paid 3 penalties for being late in the last 3 months. In May we had no, in June we had 1, in July we had 2. Prince shipped 16,098 orders on time in the last 3 months. What does this do for your confidence in the company? Who else would put this out on their website? Very important. You'll see a lot. We went into trade magazines. Hydraulic and Pneumatics, one of the biggest trade magazines for this business. If we're late, we pay, right? WWW, if we're late, we pay. It's all a common theme. It's all a common theme. But you don't see stuff about quality and all that other stuff, because this is now what differentiates us. We also started using a system called Global Spec. It's like a Thomas Register that's online. There's 2.5 million registered users. We initiated the use back in 2005. But what I want to do is show you what the impact is. Direct mails. I think this one's interesting. Don't ever knock the direct sale. We had an engineer who passed the postcard to a purchasing person, opening the dialogue to a multi-million-dollar opportunity. Who was feeling the pain? The purchasing guy? The engineer. He took this in and said, here, look, Prince can do this for us. When we implement, this is the number of hits they were having on their website. It was about 280, jumped up to around about an average of 500 as they implemented Global Spec, and as they went out in the ads in hydraulics and pneumatics news, they've now stabilized around 750 hits a day. They're coming to us. This is what we need. They're also number one now in all the search engines, or many of them, at least the top 3. So let's talk about what this means. We have this sales funnel, right? We have all these opportunities out there floating around. Some we know about, some we don't know about. What do we want to do? We want to identify them. We want to prioritize them by the size and the impact. And then we want to get them teed up. And then we want them to drop through the system, right? As fast as possible. And at the bottom end, we want cash coming out. But is this really what we want? Here's what I see. We actually want to change the shape up top. We want these things. We don't have to deal with so many of them up here. We want them to go through much faster. We want to open the pipe. We want to get buffers so that we can get things moving very quickly. And then we want a lot bigger money coming out a lot faster. Right? That's what we want. That's our job. Let's talk about the results. I think I got about 3 minutes left. I want to hit through these results and the next steps. Salespeople are excited. They want to go out and sell. They're not in operations telling them what they should be doing. They're out of the, are you crazy? To, of course we can do this. Right? That confidence piece. Offers were accepted grew from 20%, less than 20%, to over 80%. 80% of the time, over 80% when we go out and make an offer, the customer comes back and moves forward. Pipeline is expanded by 10 times in 6 months. The current pipeline is worth 70% of the current present sales. And the biggest one for me is Prince is now becoming the measuring stick. Big companies are coming to them as saying, how do they do it? Their competition, they're going to say, hey, Prince is doing this. How come you're not? That's where you want to be. Challenges of the core offer. We mentioned this one, mix and reliability too early. Big one for us, profits lag. Depending on the channel it's going through, and you have all of these things, it can be up to 39 weeks for what product to get through and out. That's a big lag, right? It's a big lag. Stated needs versus actual needs, I mentioned. Spoiled customers, ones that we've already given things to in the past. They asked for it fast, we gave it to them, we didn't charge anything. That's what I call spoiled customers. Okay, you got to identify those. Market constraint is broken. Here's one of the problems. We learned new things today. Be careful what you ask for. We went from 20 to 80%. We went after it like it wasn't going to be 80%. So we got too much in there. Our current leverage points, we need to focus sales to maximize flow. We need to look at our product mix and what the impact is on operations. Key one for me is engineering. We don't talk enough about engineering. I've listened to for the past couple days. We mentioned operations production. I'll tell you, fellas, in the ones I've been in, I see engineering being one of the ones that stops us the most. Distribution channel, we got that. Here's this. Happy salesmen in distribution. Ones who they can make one call and get what they need, they'll be back. They're happy. If they have to do work, they're not coming back. And increasing market awareness. Lessons learned, sales can never start too early. Preparation, testing the offer, phase rollout, target quick wins. Very key. Make sure you get some quick wins. Everybody will get excited. Success breeds success. Not all salespeople are created equal. You've heard Ellie talk about that and others. Some are going to do it, some aren't. By the way, when we set up measures here, it really defined who wanted to be a salesperson. When we put together the expectations of what we saw and what was needed, some people chose not to be salespeople anymore. And guess what? They were actually the right people not to be salespeople anymore. We found different positions for them, which made our salespeople more effective. Implement measures early. You must have the right audience. You need to be talking to people who understand value. Need to be prepared for success. We've mentioned that. And as I started, I'll end. You need to be prepared to continue to hear over and over and over, we need more sales. Questions?